All right, so we are beginning our adventure with the Pythagorean Theorem. What a fun word to say. I did put a link for a video into Schoology in case you have more questions or you just want to watch it. You're more than welcome to. But first things first, we're going to go ahead and fill out our notes. So first line, a theorem is a very fancy word. It basically means a statement that you can show to be true through math. So for the Pythagorean theorem, the statement that we are making is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and then we can show that through math. This relates to triangles. It relates to finding the missing side of a triangle. So when it comes to the Pythagorean theorem, just think triangles. So we have two sides of a triangle and they have to form a right angle. Those two sides that form the right angle, we call those legs, okay? And I want you to just underline or box in right angle. This theorem is only true for triangles that have a right angle. The side that is opposite that right angle, we call it, one of my favorite words in math, hypotenuse. Sounds like some sort of dinosaur or animal or who knows. Either way, hypotenuse, it is basically the longest side of a triangle. So you have the two sides that make the right angle. The one right across from that right angle is going to be your hypotenuse. That is going to be the longest side of the triangle. And that is your next fill in too. Spoiler alert. So the hypotenuse is always the longest. The two legs are always the shorter sides. Okay. And it can be a little bit complicated. You know, I like to try to break it down for you, but basically the Pythagorean, that's not how you say it, but that's how you spell it, theorem, it basically states that in a right triangle, the sum of the squares, and that's that little 2 that sometimes we put over numbers. So the sum of the squares of those legs is equal to the square of the hypotenuse. And that is a very fancy way of saying this right here. And I'll show you what it looks like. Don't worry. It doesn't matter which leg is A, which one is B, as long as you're not picking the hypotenuse, you're good to go. So A squared and B squared are both legs. And again, doesn't matter which one is which one. And then C squared is always going to be that hypotenuse. Hypotenuse. All right. So if we're looking at a triangle, here's our right angle. Straight across from it, we know is our hypotenuse. And that means this is a leg and this is a leg. Okay. So let's get down to business. Let's go ahead and make this magic work. Our first example here, we're finding the length of the missing side. So I like to draw my arrows. This is the hypotenuse, so it's going to be c squared, and then a squared, b squared, and we know our formula is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So now we're basically just filling in a value for a and b because that's what we have to find c. So a squared would be 20 squared plus b squared is 15 squared equals c squared. And then the first thing you're going to want to do is square both of these numbers. So 20 squared is 400. 15 squared is 225. And you can do that math. I mean, I shouldn't have to, but I'll show you at this point. Let's do 15 just for fun. Remember, when you're squaring a number, you're just multiplying it by itself. So 5 and 5 is 25. 5 and 1 is 5, 6, 7. 0 out your ones. 1 and 5 is 5. 1 and 1 is 1. Add 5, 12, 2. So that's where I got 225 from. And then 20 times 20 is 400. C squared. And now we simply add 400 plus 225. 625 equals c squared. And now we have to go back to square roots, because in order to find what just C is, we need to find the square root of C. And whatever you do to one side, you need to do to the other. So whatever the square root of 625 is going to give you C. But I don't expect you guys to remember all the way how to find that. So I'm going to flip this paper over really quick and show you guys how to find the square root of 625. We are going to be using prime factorization. So when it comes to prime factorization, you have a number like 625. You have a couple of options here, but basically I like to use my tree. I know it ends in a 5, which means it is divisible by 5. So one of mine is going to be 5. And then I have to say, okay, 625 divided by 5, that's 1. Bring down the 2, that's 2. That would give us 10. Bring down the 5, and that's 5. So I know that 5 times 125 will give us 625. 5 is prime, so I'm going to go ahead and circle it, but 125 is not. So again, I'm going to break it down and I'm going to use 5 because it ends in a 5. So 5 times something will give us 125. Divide that by 5. This is going to be 2. That's going to be 10. 2, bring down the 5. 5, boom, 25. Whoop, that's prime. This is not. 25 is made by 5 times 5. Both of those are prime, and we have reached our prime factorization for the number 625. Now, this is the fun part. Because we are using square roots, we are going to be grouping them by 2, because remember, a square root is just multiplying something by itself. So 5 times 5 is the same as 5 squared. 5 times 5 is the same as 5 squared. Once you get to this part, you're simply going to multiply these two together, and that is going to give you the square root of 65. So 5 times 5 is 25. So 25 squared is 625. And I'm going to prove it to you because I'm going to do the math. So 25 times 25, 5 times 5, 25, 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12, 0 out the ones. 2 times 5 is 10, 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5, boom, add 5, 2, 6, okay? So 25 squared gives us 625. That is how we can find the square root, because you're gonna have to do that a lot. Prime factorization is the easiest. Just remember, you're grouping by 2 because you're trying to find the square. Grouping by 2 because you're going to find the square. If I had, let's say, 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 left, we would group the 2's. We would group the 3's. 2 squared times 3 squared. So our answer would have been, what's 2 times 3? 6 squared. Okay, that has nothing to do with anything we're doing. I'm just showing you, even if they're different, you still group them by 2's, multiply them together, and that's going to be your final answer. All right. So we're going to take this 25 squared, because now we know the square root of 625 is 25. And now we found C. So our hypotenuse is 25 feet, because that's our measurement. All right. There are a lot of steps. I know you guys are going to ask me if you can use calculators. I don't know because I'm at home, but I will check the test specs. If I haven't already, this is a great time to remind me right now. Check the test specs, and I'll let you know if we can use calculators. But if not, here's the math. You guys all should know how to divide and multiply. So I know you might not be happy, but you can do it. All right, let's try one more example together. This time, again, I like to draw my arrows. This time we have C squared, and we have one leg. So we're going to make that, again, doesn't matter. This, we're actually looking for this side of the right triangle. Same formula, same rules as before. I'm going to write it out. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. I'm going to go ahead and replace some things here. We don't have a squared. We do have b squared. So 99 squared is going to equal 101 squared. And now we do the same exact thing, but in reverse. So first thing I'm going to do, square and square. 99 times 2, that's 1, 8, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89. 0 that sucker out. 9 and 9 is 81. That's also going to be 89. Add them together. 1, 0, 9, 10, 8, 1, 9. 9,801. 9,801 equals 101, 101. 1 and 1 is 1, 1 and 0, 0, 1 and 1 is 1, 0 out, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0 out, 1 and 1 is 1, 1 and 0, 0, 1 and 1 is 1, add, got a little messy in here, hang on. Okay, now we're ready. 1, 0, 2, 0, 1. 10,201. 201 a squared plus. And now we solve. How do we get a squared alone? You better say minus 9,801. So we know that a squared equals 1 minus 1 is 0, 0 minus 0 is 0, 2 minus 8 can't do, there's nothing there. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is 4, 9 and 9 is 0. So a squared equals 400. And then how do we get a alone with a square? Square root, a equals, got to find me the square root of 400. I'm going to go ahead and flip over to the back. Let's prime factorization this big bad boy. 400, easiest, 4 and 100. That is not prime, but 2 times 2. These two are 100. I'm going to say it's 25 times 4. 5 and 5. Those are prime. 4 is 2 and 2. And those are prime. So our factors are, our prime factors are 2 times 2 times 5 times 5 times 2 times 2. Group your 2's. 2 squared times 5 squared times 2 squared. And now we just multiply. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 times 2 is 20. So 400, the square root of 400 is 20, which means that A is 20. Zoop, 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 zoop. Zoop, 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 zoop. And there you have it. You are going to practice some on your own. I am going to do another video of just like the examples, but none of this math is hard. It'll be 10 times easier if you can use a calculator. I will find out if you can use a calculator, but you still should be able to do all of the math without it. All right. I believe in you. You got this. Watch the video if you're still confused or you need a little extra help.